But have you heard anything like that?
Yeah. So the number one thing we see them recruit is Colombians. And so we know Colombian mercenaries in Mexico. One of the areas that the cartels leverage to target for recruitment is Colombians who served in Ukraine. That's when you generally see that. Those are very widely focused and used, and so generally rule of thumb is if you see that 90% of them are probably they're Colombians. We do get reports of other nationalities, and look, this has been a problem set for Mexico for years. We've all seen the stories and reports of special forces of various countries being recruited by cartel members, American military veterans, Israelis, Russians, Guatemalans special forces get recruited heavily, Colombians, etc. Right? This is a known thing that has always happened where people get drawn in. Now, because of Russia, Ukraine, clearly the Mexican cartels are targeting for recruitment are Colombian foreign fighters in Ukraine, and they're leveraging as mercenaries to go inside of Mexico. And they're very prolific. I have many cases I've seen in specifically Michoacan, both used by Carteles Unidos, or the United Cartels, and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. I've even seen, anecdotal evidence of them being with los Rusos of los Maito Flacos there in Sonora, also operating there. So yes, that is clearly there. I did see that report of it's instead of trying to recruit people who have already trained, trying to send people so they can get trained. I did see that report. I think that is a concern. If you read the report, that was a concern that the Mexican intelligence agency, the Centro de Nacional Inteligencia of the Intelligence National Center of Mexico, kind of said a warning to the Ukrainian intelligence services, hey, we have this concern of Mexican cartel members going, can you make sure your vetting is proper? And, maybe we had this crosstalk to ensure, hey, if we have somebody in our list and it pings on your list, let us know and maybe expel them or detain them and send them our ways. That is something that could be done. But generally the rule of thumb that I've seen is why not recruit somebody who's already trained and bring them over? And I think that's generally the preferred method of what they see, and not only in Russia, Ukraine, but anywhere around the world. And Colombians are known to be kind of the international mercenaries for any conflict around the world. That's just how they've done it. So clearly we've done that. Clearly they're interested in a lot of these, TTPs that we see in Russia, Ukraine, and they want to, kind of bring those lessons learned into Mexico. But a lot of the things that the Ukrainians and the Russians are using in this war, I think it's important to highlight, they're not necessarily technologically significant. It's not like an MQ-9 Predator drone, obviously. So a lot of them, you're also seeing them learning it organically from their own reasoning. So, but yeah, foreign nationals fighting for cartels has been a problem in Mexico for decades and will continue to be.
How about the use of AI and other technology? Is there any intel on that? And what are some concerns that we should have here in America with that? Because AI is big, everyone's using it, but there is some talks about some of the cartels trying to be ahead of the game in the technology space. Any intel on that?
Yeah, so it's funny because I was literally a couple months ago, I was speaking for the Gordon Institute. It's a think tank, tied to the Florida International University, and they literally asked me that same question. Where I see AI probably playing a big role, at least in the immediate term right now, is we do know cartels operate, security centers, and they control CCTVs, cameras around a city or an area, or et cetera, right? And they do that for, security operations, reconnaissance, et cetera. One of the areas I'm looking for is we start getting the first reports of basically AI facial recognition or incorporating AI tools into these, safe houses where they monitor a city or an area, right? Because we do know that they have observers. And look, Mexican cartels have terrible OPSEC. They have absolutely atrocious OPSEC. We have a video of a female cartel member literally with her feet up in her phone, right? Laying back and recording and posting it on social media, all the screens with all the CCTV footages in the area she was monitoring, and I believe it was Aguascalientes or near Aguascalientes, if memory serves me correctly, right? That's what they were monitoring. That's the first area I would be looking at, is basically AI into these security features for facial recognition. The second area we need to pay attention, we've already seen this in Colombia, where the Colombian Navy seized it, is there was a narco submarine that was using Starlink to navigate, and it was an unmanned narco submarine, right? Because they've both been manned.
I saw that.
Yeah. And so now that, in some way, shape, or form, Are they leveraging similar tools? And now, that's not necessarily AI per se, but maybe it could. Maybe they want to leverage AI and kind of these kind of the unmanned drones, these smaller drones to kind of operate larger scale, maybe, for, they're conducting attacks or pushing products over the border. I think that's a little bit too high of a sophistication rate. Generally, what I would tell people is, cartel members aren't, 90% of them aren't known to be highly educated, right? They're generally people that get recruited at a very young age and haven't completed a lot of levels of education. And so generally, the simpler something is, the better. So that's a possibility. But, I would say in more large scale is some of these drug trafficking, specifically the narco submarines. And then and another use is you leveraging these facial recognition tools with AI in their security sensors for CCTV. Those are the two future areas that I'm looking at.
I have a question. It's kind of a little off the topic, but on the topic. And if you have anything to add to it, please do. But I'm a little curious about, during the Biden administration, we had this massive influx of immigration, right?
Sure.
And in that was a lot of these nefarious countries that we know don't really see America as in this great place. They almost want to do bad things, or the historical kind of side of that is they're not looking to improve America by any means. One that I would mention is China. There was a report of over 32,000 illegal Chinese nationals coming into the country at one point. And so that makes me feel like if there is a big plan, right, the long game of China, if there was a plan to kind of dismantle America from the inside, and then as well as, other, I guess, intelligence, with land that's purchasing from the Chinese are purchasing in Mexico, kind of staging. It looks as if maybe there is a long game that's kind of afoot here. Would Mexico want to support that, or would Mexico be more on the side of kind of protecting America? Since, I think the cartel knows that we purchase more of the drugs, right? We're the kind of financial stabilization of these cartels. And so is there any kind of thought on what the long game would be if for some reason a country was trying to infiltrate us, or already have, if you will, like the Trojan horse, if you will, that kind of might be happening as we speak?
So what I would say, if I may, just on the kind of the Chinese nationals that came over, how I would compare, like, because we see this around the world.